It was on a project that had a large riser stack, and the grease in that duct actually caught fire, and they didn't notice for a whole week.
Oh my
gosh.
That
fire was burning at, they say 2,000 degrees, and they didn't even notice until it melted the fan on the exhaust, and that fan melted all the way through the duct and onto the ground.
From the heartland of America, the gateway to the West, this is Engineering Tomorrow, the podcast, keeping you entertained and in the know on the latest commercial and industrial heating, cooling, and water treatment technologies.
Welcome to the first episode of our podcast. I am Brian Gomsky, your host, and today I am sitting with Stephen Higgins, sales engineer from Midwest Machinery out of St. Louis, Missouri. Stephen, you want to say hi and kind of introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Stephen Higgins. We're going to talk about grease duct. I actually just went through some grease duct training out in Wichita, Kansas with Metal Fab. They taught me a little bit, and I also had a fairly sizable project here in Missouri that worked on that used the factory-built grease duct.
Right, and we thought since this was the first episode ever, we thought we'd do something exciting like grease duct. I know a lot of people are probably interested in it. As me being a novice, what exactly is grease duct?
It's a duct that's going to connect to a commercial kitchen hood. So this hood is going to be placed over your commercial kitchen appliances, and it's a way for that hot air to exhaust out. It's going to go from the hood to an exit point in your building. Now, they call it grease duct because it is rated for the grease particles within the air that's going up through the system that's going to collect on the duct. Then that duct needs to be cleaned. There's still maintenance involved. It will run down and be safely deposited elsewhere.
So this is, this is like the same ductwork that's in a McDonald's, that's also in a commercial building. Is that all the same type of grease duct, or?
Yes.
All right. Anywhere that deals with oils, foods, stuff that smells,
yes.
That's going to get residue and build up is this required by law? They have to use this type of ducting, or?
You need to have a fire-rated duct to be able to handle your grease applications. So anything that's going to involve a kitchen hood is going to also involve grease duct.
Are the regulations the same across the United States, or do you know if it varies state to state?
It does vary state to state. There are several things that impact what would be varied. For instance, the amount of cleanouts that you're needing in a factory-built product. It's based off of code, and codes are always going to be different based off of where you live.
So you heard it here, folks. Consult your local codes for the ultimate final decisions on your design and installation. All right, so we were talking about grease duct. We've established what grease duct is. Now, within this solution, are there different types of grease duct, or is everything the same? Tell us a little bit about that.
It used to just be field assembled product. So you're taking a product and welding it in the field for your exhaust system. And that's been the conventional method for quite some time now. But recently there's been a strong push for a factory assembled product. And that does not require any welding, and it's just components that are shipped out to the field that are then coupled together, and your duct is created that way.
So we have two options. Option one is the way they've always been doing it. I guess engineers lay out where the piping should go, and then they have some metal workers essentially come in and build it all on site.
Yes, it's a carbon steel construction pipe that they're using.
And then the other option is factory built. I'm assuming based on the words factory built that everything is manufactured elsewhere and just delivered ready to go?
Correct. It's going to come in small pieces, sections, and those sections will need to be bonded together with a high heat sealant, and then usually a flange band to couple those two pieces together. You can typically even couple many pieces together before setting them into place. With your field assembled product, you're going to need to weld a section at a time just for weight purposes. The field assembled product is going to be a lot heavier, a lot harder to work with than the factory assembled.
What are some of the benefits, like if you compared the two different applications, give us a few positive and negatives of each option.
Probably the main positive of going with the field assembled product is it doesn't require a lot of work ahead of time. You can set your hood, figure out where your exhaust is out there in the field, and then cut and weld pieces together in order to get it to exhaust to what you need. That's probably the main difference. But if you do the work ahead of time and you know where everything is going to be, you're probably going to be fine with going in with a factory assembled product. The main advantage to factory assembled products has to be the safety. Safer to install, safer during operation, and safer to maintain. Unlike the field fabricated duct, factory assembled requires a series of tests in order to make it become listed, UL listed. These tests prove the safety and reliability of the duct and goes to ensure it's safe for such a hazardous application.
So we got the two options. What about cost? How do those two compare just in terms of the bill at the end of the day?
So you really need to consider everything when comparing costs, and I'll kind of go over this a little bit more later. There is going to be a greater upfront cost to having a factory assembled product, and there should be. I mean, you're going to get a safer, machine-built, reliable product as opposed to getting a carbon steel and then welding it out there in the field. But then you also need to consider the man hours that it takes for a field assembled product or a factory assembled product. You will need somebody to be welding, and there's definitely going to be more people involved in order to get the pieces in the right places. That is the opposite of the factory built product. You're going to use fewer people in order to get this to go together, and you will not need any welding to be done in the field.
From an engineer's perspective, is there any benefits on either side to either of these solutions? Or
yeah, well, ultimately, the engineer is going to be the one that's in charge of safety. So if something fails, they're the ones that gave the stamp of approval. Mm-hmm. Carbon steel has been known to, create many frequent and severe fire damage in these grease duct applications. And then, on the other hand, the engineer puts their stamp on something that's been proven and tested to handle the grease duct application, go through the fire testing and handle all of that. They're going to feel a lot safer at the end of the day. There was a sheet metal worker that was telling me about a factory-built grease duct product that he was working with. It was on a project that had a large riser stack, and the grease in that duct actually caught fire, and they didn't notice for a whole week.
Oh my gosh.
That fire was burning at, they say 2,000 degrees, and they didn't even notice until it melted the fan on the exhaust, and that fan melted all the way through the duct and onto the ground.
Wow. I think it's safe to say that is some pretty robust material there.
Yeah, it definitely can handle those high heat temperatures, and that's what it's meant to do.
Mm-hmm. All right, so Stephen, you did mention fire, and you did pique my interest on a couple concerns there. Talk a little bit more about safety concerns and things of that nature.
Okay, well, when dealing with grease, you're going to deal with something that's nasty and will pool. A lot of factory-built product is going to be cylindrical in shape and will have a built-in slope. This is going to create a better slope for the grease to exit and run out and not pool. A lot of field assembled product is going to be rectangular shaped, and that's going to cause the availability for the grease to pool. And when the grease sits there, it's like a fire waiting to happen. They're also not getting in there and cleaning it out regularly. That grease sitting there is going to be a fire hazard. Getting into a fire, you're going to have a lot more problems with a field assembled product as opposed to a factory assembled product. That factory assembled product is tested for high heat temperatures up to 2,000 degrees for 45 minutes. And at the same time, when you test a field built product for that length of time at that temperature, you will see it deform and buckle and a lot of times even just fall out of place, which is detrimental to a building. You won't get that with a factory assembled product.
We're based out here in St. Louis, and the last several years, I mean, there have definitely been a handful of buildings that have actually caught fire in the kitchen due to grease. It's a definitely concern, but day to day, people probably don't think about it. Once the building's done and everyone gets onto their daily routine, no one's thinking about the grease duct.
Right. And they actually say in those kitchens that 3 out of every 5 fires that come from your commercial kitchen buildings are from the grease. So that grease is just going to collect there, and eventually it will catch fire. And then you're talking about replacing all of it, and your building's going to be down months. So the cost of operation, you're just not going to be making anything as far as a building owner going in with this field-built product.
On the factory versus field assembled, do you know, do they both have a recommended lifespan?
Yeah, so with the field-built product, there's not really a lifespan. It's still going to require maintenance, and there are issues that they can't attribute to the product itself. They'll say that the grease built up and it's a maintenance issue. And at the same regard, a lot of times in these, if you do have a fire in these factory-built products, you won't have to replace it. There might be some sealant that needs to be replaced. The company that we work with, they offer a lifetime limited warranty on their product.
All right, so I'm the building owner. I've installed my grease duct. The building's open for business. What type of maintenance do I need to expect? I mean, are we cleaning this once a week, once a year? What do I need to look at? Tell me a little bit about, what can we expect once it's all in place and ready to go?
Yeah, with a building owner, it really just depends on your application of how often you need to clean it. With the factory-built product, it comes with a lot of specialties that are there to help you clean it out and see if you need to clean it out more. There will be clean-out sections, which is just a hinge on one section that's easily accessible. You're just going to take that off and you can look inside and see it. In order to get in there to clean it, you'll need somebody to come in with a power washer and spray it all down, similar to a field-built product, but you're not going to have the clean-out sections and the accessibility that you would have with a factory-built product.
Do building inspectors, when they're coming through, do building inspectors come through on an annual basis or like on commercial buildings just to make sure, is the grease duct something they check on, or is that?
Yeah, they are going to check on it. It's going to be before and after. Obviously, you're going to need it before to make sure there's no leaks. You're going to do a water test or a light test, see if there's any holes. And this would be for either product, factory-built or field-built. And then if there is a problem, you are going to be subject to several inspections. You're going to need somebody to come out and verify that the product that you have out there won't have the same problem again. Now, with a field-built product, you can expect the inspector to be out there quite a bit, especially because you're not going to have that safety listing that you will with a field-built product.
You mean factory-built?
Yes, excuse me. Factory.
Tell me about the testing. What do you mean by water testing? They fill the whole tube up with water or what?
Yeah, you're going to take a high-pressured power washer and spray the inside, and you're going to spray it all around, similar to how you would clean it out. You're going to spray it, and then you would notice if it's leaking anywhere based off of anything that fell to the ground. And that's just to test if it's sealed correctly, or see if there's any holes in the workmanship of the duct itself.
How do they determine if you're going to do a light test or a water test?
Accessibility. If you don't have access to the cleanouts that you would with a factory-built product, you're going to use a light. And, a lot of times these are retrofit applications where access is very limited. So you only would be able to see if there's a leak based off of a light. You're not going to be able to feel or see waterfall or any water exit the grease duct itself.
On the factory-built solutions where there are cleanouts, is it safe to assume that at that point the engineer needs to ensure that those are accessible? Like, you're not just going to put drywall up over the cleanout points?
Yes. And a lot of times you'll work with your sales rep when you're designing this to make sure that you're putting the clean out in the best spot available. You also will need to put clean outs every, here in St. Louis, it's every 20 feet you need another clean out. And that's a code requirement. So you can get in there, see, what it is, what it looks like, and be able to get in there and clean it out.
All right, I got a building. I decided to go with the factory-built grease duct. How long does it take from handing you the designs to fabrication to being out at the job site?
That just depends on the complexity of your building. A lot of these designs will get changed quite a bit. When designing a building, not a lot of people take into account your grease duct needs, and conventionally you're able to modify that out in the field. But if you're going to go with this factory-built grease duct, you're going to need to hammer that down from the start. You set all of that up from the get-go, and you should be good to go as far as ordering the pieces and getting it out there on site, and installing it would be, they say, would be faster than it would if you were just to weld it out in the field.
Okay. Stephen, is there anything else we need to know about grease duct today?
Yeah, one major aspect of grease duct is its clearance to combustibles. So with a field-built product, you will need a clearance around the duct in order, for the combustible material around there to not catch fire or any other issues may arise. With a factory-built grease duct, you're going to have a 0-inch clearance. That means you can put something right up next to it. That saves a lot of room.
Sure.
Makes it a lot smaller footprint. More things can go there. That's more space for anything else. If this is going through multiple floors, that's saving, space all the way up, all the way to exhaust. So that's a huge saver, especially for engineers. They should love that.
Stephen, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on the show today. Folks, this was our very first podcast ever. Until next time, thank you for listening. Please subscribe. Visit us on MidwestMachinery.net.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You've been listening to Engineering Tomorrow, the podcast. For more insights and downloadable content, please visit our website at www.engineeringtomorrow.blog. Until next time, engineer for tomorrow, today.